Amit, welcome to AI to Peace.
Thank you very much. It's a delight to be here.
The first question I wanted to ask you, Amit, is could you tell us about yourself, your journey to where we are today?
Absolutely. My background is in computer science. It's a tech background. Did my first startup when I was 17. And the journey into what was originally a very typical Silicon Valley cycle began when that startup was acquired by a company in California, moved over there. This was the throes of 2000 and the depths of, end of 2000. And ended up for a quick lunch meeting in San Francisco, which lasted 21 years. And in that journey, the learnings were incredible because I transitioned from being, startup founder to starting to invest into the space. And did the second startup that went well. We were doing a lot of work with the early days of AI already. And in 2006, my co-founder and I built the first privacy-focused AI lab called Zero, and the thesis at the time was that if AI fulfilled anywhere close to its potential, um, there would be there's always the dystopian stories around AI. It's about what we might fear. There's obviously the things that it can achieve for us, but we believe that one of the biggest victims would end up being privacy. AI can only work well when it can consume large amounts of data. And so that was the thesis that we went down the road of creating privacy-focused AI algorithms. Went on to kind of intersect with the world of decentralization as a byproduct and helped found the Silicon Valley Blockchain Society almost a decade ago to start bringing thoughtful long-term capital influence, support, and ecosystems into the decentralized space. And I always believe that, true disruption is a collaboration sport. And so we wanted to bring the startups that wanted to disrupt the large existing companies, existing companies that were going to be disrupted by the startups, and all of the capital around that. And it was 3.5 years ago, while I was going through the journey of speaking at different events and evangelizing the idea of self-sovereignty and privacy and data as a fundamental human right, that all of these things came together and ended up becoming what is now Rainfall, the first self-sovereign AI platform. Because, I also sit on the Global Mobility Council, BMW. I served on the board of the Norwegian Refugee Council, the Frontier Refugee Agency for Conflict Zones. And the lesson for me has always been, it doesn't matter whether it's Susan, the mother of two who drives an expensive BMW, or Rashida, the mother of two who has escaped genocide in Syria and lives in one of our camps in Lebanon. The true power, potential, and with it responsibility of technology, exponential technology like AI, is truly fulfilled and met when we can touch both their lives in a net positive way. And that has been a core part of my journey, my purpose. I always say in one sentence, I only create, invest, and empower people and projects that create a net positive impact on the humans they intend to serve. And I find myself here now, and really excited to be chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Incredible. What an amazing story, and inspiring that the output is very much focused on benefiting humanity. Wonderful, Amit. Good for you. Thank you. When you hear the phrase AI to peace, what's the reality of that outcome?
You think about it, AI is a mirror and an amplifier, right? AI is what we've trained it to be. It is not just trained on the intelligence of the world that we fed it. It's also trained on our priorities, right? And so, you put it in the hands of extractive capital and you'll get, inequality and surveillance and, scammy beard oil salesmen, right? Out of AI. But when you think about the power of what it has to do when we put it in the hands of self-sovereign individuals, when we allow people to be empowered by their own AI, then we can start to bring, dignity. We can start to bring economic agency, and with it, we bring fundamentals of peace. When people have control and agency about who they are, they have freedom. When they have economic agency, they have the freedom of movement. And these are all the incredible abilities that we can bring with the exponential power of AI. So to me, when I think of AI AI to peace, AI to peace is not going to come from a trillion parameter model, right? It'll come from trillion act movements of small sovereign choices. And once we give people the ability to have AI truly represent them, once we think of AI as not this artificial replacement of the human, but the A stands for augmentation of human intelligence. Once we can make each human smarter, faster, better, more equipped, and instead of replacing them, when we think of augmenting them, then we start on all of these journeys of peace. Because, to be clear, peace is not passive. It's power in the hands of each person. And if we think of AI from a design philosophy from that perspective, then we can unlock some incredible abilities. So I'll give you a very, very quick example. We can use AI to unlock the power of the life of a refugee, where their labor may not have any value, but their data does have value. Guess what can unlock that? AI. And if you can affect the lives of even the most vulnerable in society, your path from AI to peace starts to not just become real, it starts to become the most necessary thing we do going forward as a community.
Amazing. Amit, I was just thinking as you were talking then, for those people at home who they hear Elon Musk say, if you were worried about nuclear weapons, get ready for AI. I mean, there's a lot of fear around AI and its development. Of course, a lot of people are investing in utilizing it to be even more successful in relation to wars. Should we be fearing it as much as we are? I mean, how do you feel about the future?
Um, I see the world with rose-tinted glasses, so I will factor that into how I view the future. I think there is legitimate reasons to fear aspects of AI, and I think that if you go back even 10 years and you ask the average person what they knew about AI pre-Chat GPT and pre-generative AI and pre-Elon Musk, it would be one of six Hollywood movies interpretation of AI. And so you look at Blade Runner and Her and Terminator, and that's the viewpoint, right? Um, so there is aspects of fear that you can see as being legitimate when you start to weaponize AI from a war perspective, and you start to worry about who's making the decisions. Not that we're always excited about human decisions when it comes to war in the first place. But there's so much more that can be done with AI if we're aware of what we should truly be fearful of. I fear mediocrity. I fear that we're training these average AI systems with data that doesn't represent every human. Where I fear that we're going to create systems that are beige because they just blend the individuals from around the world. I fear that these systems are biased towards Western northern economies. I fear that the compute that runs these systems is so heavily skewed. It's sort of like the land equation. 90% of the world's land owned by 10% of the world's population, and accruing therefore economic benefits in that proportion. And today's compute, 90% of the compute that runs AI is controlled by 10% of the world's companies. Those are the things to fear, and those things we can solve for easily if we have the right philosophical approach. And so I would say it's less for us to fear, it's more for us to aspire. And if we build the right way, and if we think about not just what we're building and how we're building it, but we think about our why, powered by who we're building this for, then a lot of those fears, I think, will disappear very quickly, and they'll become aspirations of, what we can achieve for all of humanity.
Listen, I couldn't agree with you more, Amit. It's exactly why I wanted to produce AI to Peace. I mean, I think, or why we will produce World Food content for World Food Day, or for the International Day of Education, or for peace, or for climate, or for the elimination of violence against women, or for anti-racism. Constructive narrative that informs, inspires, and engages people towards action around the fundamental issues of humanity's survival at this particular point, I don't think it's ever been more important. You and I are completely on the same page, and it's a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for your interview today. But before we go, one last question. If people would like to find out about you and see your work, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I would say, for starters, everyone should care deeply about their privacy when it comes to the world of AI, and it's something that we're working on as a mission. And we want to empower people by giving each person their own personal AI that represents who they are, truly who they are, and is owned and controlled by them. People can learn more about this effort at www.rainfall.one.one. And then also they can follow latest updates on what's happening in this world on Twitter, X, at rainfall_one. And, that's where we post a lot of educational material as well about the power of what can be done with when we bring self-sovereignty to AI, because we can bring peace through the power of the people rather than one company.
Amazing, Amit. Good luck with your incredible work. Thank you for participating in AI to Peace.
Thank you very much.